So, my friends, welcome to a new crypto update video. Bitcoin is experiencing a small correction, currently at 102,500 US dollars. At its peak last night, it reached 100,600 US dollars. Nevertheless, we are holding very steady, as is the entire crypto market in general. Nevertheless, you should be extremely cautious. That's what I already mentioned in yesterday's video, because at the moment, with all the agreements, everything is a bit overvalued and so on, and that's something we should simply pay attention to. I'm going to go into this a bit more in detail in my video now, and of course we'll also take a closer look at the stock markets and the forex market, because the euro is actually performing perfectly there. The DAX, not so much as you might hope, but you'll definitely find out all about that in today's video. But before we get started, feel free to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and of course, feel free to join the free Telegram Talk On and Signal group. If you're interested in updates, news, and signals, feel free to join in. You can find the link for that for free down in the video description. And if you're still looking for an exchange where you can trade everything we discuss here or want to buy spot, however you want to do it, you can register with my partner exchange Binx using the link below in the video description. By doing so, you support me and the channel. So as I said, Bitcoin at 102,500 US dollars. Yesterday in the video, we talked about the massive divergence up here. That's why there was another small liquidity wick early on, down to just under 106,000 US dollars. Then in the afternoon, it went downwards, despite the agreement from the US and everything else. Then Trump said something against the EU again and whatever else. None of it should really be taken too seriously. Still, you can tell there was an agreement, positive news and so on. Over the weekend, it's usually never good. That's why there was another wick above here yesterday and then this sell-off. Is this really already the start of a correction? I still have my doubts about that. I still have the feeling that we have a bit more room to move up. Not just because the heat map shows that we definitely still have liquidity up to around 160,000 or even 170,000, but also because the funding rates are still a bit low. I would like to see them shoot up significantly again, with even more long positions being opened. Sure, more are being opened, but just the sell-off we saw here yesterday showed that there still isn't really much momentum. Of course, 215 million US dollars were flushed out of the market, but that's not really a lot, considering that we had a $5,000 dump at one point. So if we take a look at it from our top to our bottom, it was really almost 5% down, and you didn't really notice it because it happened so gradually. Sure, it sped up a bit towards the evening, but it's still not the kind of liquidation cascade I would like to see, which is why at the moment it just seems more likely that we could go up again. So the first step now is up here from 103,500 to about 104,000 US dollars. That's the first step. If we get past that, we can grab the liquidity above here and then initiate this sell-off. That would currently be the primary scenario. But it should be noted, if we turn on the vector candles here, theoretically, we would only have room up to 103,000 US dollars. Simply because we still have a vector here, plus the golden pocket is also located in this zone. That means these are the zones we should be watching throughout the course of the morning today. Another thing to consider, if we take a look at the news, and for me, that's actually a bit more decisive at the moment, is that right now we're simply trading around all these events. Yes, there is an agreement regarding the tariffs. Everything looks good. However, the Fed has not yet lowered interest rates. But what's more important now are the CPI data today at 2:30 p.m. That could be the first counter indicator, because the tariffs might already be having a bit of an impact there. If these CPI numbers are higher, that's absolutely terrible for us. So that's point number one. Tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, the next set of data should be released, I believe. Yes. At least as far as the mortgage market and things like that are concerned, that's already point number one. And I think then on Friday or Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, now I have to check myself. I think it was supposed to be Thursday, right? The retail sales figures. How is the overall economy doing? The Fed keeps saying that the economy is doing great. If the economy really is doing great, then of course these figures should reflect that as well. If those numbers turn out to be bad, or if retail sales continue to be phenomenal, but inflation remains high, then the Fed has no reason to cut interest rates, and that could be the trigger that sends the markets into a correction, since they are, of course, overheated. Yesterday, we looked at this in the Telegram group. The 10-year government bonds, the 5-year ones, all government bonds are rising. The bond markets are collapsing, meaning they're getting weaker and weaker. To me, this all seems more like a hopium rally. I don't mean for this to sound negative. But these are just some things, right? So you can maybe understand my background and why I'm currently a bit more bearish, just to pay a bit more attention to the economy, which really isn't doing well when you look at it this way. Where is the money flowing? We'll take a closer look at that in the stock market analysis in just a moment. So that's definitely the plan for today, especially for potential short positions. All right, let's move on to the altcoins. How is Ethereum doing? Ethereum is also holding up phenomenally well, I have to say at this point. Just ignore that again. We did see a small sell-off here from $2,600 down to $2,400, but even here it happened very, very slowly. In terms of volume, it's still very, very high. That means interest in Ethereum is still very, very high, but there hasn't been that liquidation cascade, which of course could break out at any time. Of course, it should be noted that up here we had a bit more consolidation, all well and good. Here everything was a bit steeper, so as soon as we probably fall below 2,280s here, things will likely collapse very, very quickly. Nevertheless, at the moment we are still holding up very, very well, which could indicate that we might once again sweep the liquidity above here over 2,640, or even, and this would be the most bullish scenario I can possibly imagine, up here at 2,776. So that means being short right now is still very, very risky. It might be better to wait here for 2,600 or even 2,776. Same story with Solana. Solana, at least for now, still hasn't tapped the liquidity here that we talked about yesterday. That means here too, we still have room to move up to around $184. We'll leave it like that for now because I think we could still reach that level maybe over the course of the day, maybe over the course of the week, before these news cascades possibly hit or even more long positions are opened. So not much is happening, the market is calm, but it could collapse at any moment. That's exactly what we should be paying attention to. Maybe even today at 2:30 p.m., depending on how the CPI data turns out, it's definitely going to be extremely exciting. Let's move on to the traditional markets. So the DAX isn't performing as planned. You can see for yourselves here, we just barely avoided being stopped out, I would say, at around 23,935 or 40 points. We reached exactly up to the pivot, then the correction came, so it just barely worked out. We can basically call it a liquidity grab, just like we had over here, hoping that now something will happen in terms of a correction. If we look at the traditional markets in the US here as well, the Dow Jones broke through the golden pocket, but we already talked about last week that there's still a bit of room everywhere here, at least to pick up these wicks. That means there's still a bit of room left in the Dow Jones. Nasdaq shot all the way up, a huge gap. You can see it in all the tech stocks and so on, which are shooting up extremely. For me, this is all just a liquidity grab. The S&P 500 at least reached its target, grabbing the liquidity above here. Now, it's getting interesting. That means we're really standing on the edge here. Either we're about to see new all-time highs everywhere. That means Bitcoin, crypto, stock markets, everything really hitting new all-time highs. Or a real correction is about to start soon. What surprised me a bit, to switch over to the Forex markets, is that our ISO Euro-US dollar trade is running perfectly. So the third take profit has now been reached for me. And my target zone for today, before I forget, is down here at 1.099. We can keep an eye on that down here for a possible long trade. So just keep an eye on this red box down here. Whether we go long down here, you'll definitely find out in the Telegram group. I'll let you know. Otherwise, at the moment, it's still a bit too risky for me. The DXY is rising, of course. There are agreements on the tariffs between China and the USA, at least for 90 days. But that doesn't mean anything. Things can change at any time, or with the EU or whoever else. That means more stability for the US dollar. Nevertheless, we can see that there's a lack of money in the bonds market, or rather, everything is flowing into the 10-year government bonds. That means the hope that something will change is very, very slim, and for me, that's just hopium. And that's something we should still pay a bit of attention to right now. Don't get excited too early, thinking that we're going to go to the moon for months now. At any time, something could happen, some impact that could end up causing things to go wrong after all. And that's just my opinion on the side, just to explain myself a little. I already mentioned it in the live stream last week, but also here in the videos. It might not be a bad idea to share all these background reasons with you, why I'm currently a bit more bearish. And don't just want to go along with all this, we're going to the moon talk, because there's simply too much uncertainty in the market. Yes, and gold. Gold has tested the 200-day SMA here. We just barely missed our entry at 3,190. Let's see what might still happen over the course of today. It's possible that we'll reach this support level or finally get our order filled down here. But that doesn't mean anything yet. So we're just waiting here. I've got time. I'm telling you how it is. We don't necessarily have to jump into the trade right now. But for me, this is the area down here all the way to 3,120. And that's where we'll enter, if possible. Otherwise, that's it from my side. There will be a Casper altcoin update video later since you requested it yesterday. And otherwise, that's it from my side. I wish you a great day. Take care of yourselves. Leave a like, subscribe, join the Telegram group, and we'll talk again later. Until then, ciao, ciao. And as always, stay crypt.